What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Rams Brothers. I'm your host, Dean, and I'm joined, as always, by my brother and the other great host of this show, Nick. Playoff win in State Farm Stadium amidst all the Los Angeles fires. The Los Angeles Rams came to play. They represented the city well. They got a playoff victory. They won their division after starting 1-4, and now have a date with the Philadelphia Eagles in Philadelphia in the divisional round. But before we jump into this episode and all the fun shit that happened tonight, first and most importantly, how are you, my good brother?
Fantastic. What a win for the city of Los Angeles. What a win for our Los Angeles Rams. The refs be damned. The Rams won the game. They won it convincingly. They look like a real contender out of the NFC. It's not a joke anymore. I know we start the season 1-4, but we're real. It's a real team. It's a real threat at representing the NFC in the Super Bowl, and I couldn't be better right now outside of the terrible things happening outside of Arizona.
Yeah, prayers to all the families that are being affected by the fires. Look, it sounds like the Rams are going to travel back to Los Angeles tonight. So hopefully things kind of restore order and go back to normal in the next week or so. And again, shout out to the first responders, to the police staff, to everybody that's been on top of this, because they made this game possible, as Joe Buck and Troy Aikman mentioned thousands of times on the broadcast. And really the Arizona Cardinals, who made themselves so accommodating to be able to host this team, really kind of tied a bow on this incredible Monday night playoff win. But from 1-4 to winners of 9 of the last 12 games, to NFC championships, to NFC West champions, and now on to the divisional round in Philadelphia. They won up last year, and it's an incredible turnaround. And Nick, you and I were talking before the podcast started. We were like, is this season considered a win at this point? Like, is it, they obviously over-exceeded expectations based on how they started. But I think when you look at everything, look at how the season unfolded, you look at Sean McVay and Chris Shula and all these rookies up front and how they really pieced together these things over the past couple of weeks. Less than 10 points allowed in 5 of their last 6 games. Now you got a divisional date in Philadelphia. I would say that this season, you don't want to give up on it, obviously, but it's been pretty much a win thus far.
Yeah, I said it before the pod. I was like, I think you have to chalk this season up as a win. But when you do that, you're also admitting that like defeat is not that big of a deal. I think, because you're like, okay, now we're at the point where we've reached our goal. We won the playoff game. We're better than where we were last year. Go in the offseason, attack, maybe sign some big free agents, make a splash, and move on from there. But now, truly after that game, the Vikings, flash the graphic you showed me. The Vikings are 0-2 against the Lions, 0-2 against the Rams, and 14-0 against everybody else. That is a real team. That is a legitimate real team that we played on a neutral field, and we demolished them. Everything about that game was a demolish. It was the most relaxed I have felt watching a Rams game all season, and it couldn't have come at a better time. I think just emotionally, people were feeling really good about this game. I was feeling really good about it. The fact that it was in Arizona and we had the red seats made me feel like a little like St. Louis Rams too. Like, I just felt like we had a lot of good stuff, like a really good juju on our side. We were representing Los Angeles because the Chargers clearly could not do that and fumbled the bag. We are LA's team. And yeah, I just feel really good about them right now. Like, I really think that they have a shot.
And the reason why you can't chalk this season up to a win so far is because you're 1 game away from the NFC Championship. You're 1 game away from surprising Philadelphia in their own building with a quarterback and a coach who have already gotten the job done. And you're going against a quarterback and head coach who have gotten there but haven't finished the job. And that's their only priority in Philadelphia. So it's time to play spoiler. Rams fans want to bring on the Eagles. This game will be Sunday, January 19th at 3 p.m. Eastern or 12 p.m. Pacific time. And I think that this is a very real thing that happened within the Rams' facilities. Or I guess you could say in the Arizona facilities over the past couple of days. This "see you in 2 weeks" quote from Dan Campbell was really inspiring. You saw Les Snead's wife was actually on social media and was talking about how it's been hung within the building and, it's bulletin board material and the team wants to use it as motivation. Now "see you in 2 weeks" is realistic. Keep that shit up. because you could potentially see the Lions in 2 weeks in the NFC Championship game. So you keep the inspiration, you keep the juju and all the good things that are going on to be able to represent the city of Los Angeles with pride. And this team is very much doing that. And yeah, the Vikings were a 14-win team, but who looked like a potential fraud was Sam Darnold. He was sacked 9 times in this game. 9 reminds me of Crazy Stupid Love. I can't believe that this pass rush was as good as they were in the most crucial situation. And I think playing a complete game at this time, after not doing it for 17 weeks of the season, was crucial. And it's hats off to the coaches and to the staff and everybody who prepared themselves, because it felt like some normalcy for this team to finally be back on the football field after a week of rest. And they got the job done. They did exactly what they needed to do to represent the city.
Amazing first scripted drive. First of all, fantastic. First play of the game, boom, 30 yards. Puka finds the middle of the field, just right off the bat, rearing to go. It felt like very similar to how we started the Eagles game. And then Kyron fumbled, and it felt like we were not able to recover from that. But just aces from the jump. Defense force a 3-and-out. Should have been 14-0. But then we got the refs pushing us back for some ridiculous penalty. It's 10-0. And then after that, the game really just falls apart. We just keep hitting Sam Darnold, and it just doesn't look good for the Vikings. I think the media is going to take this game. They're going to destroy the Sam Darnold narrative, because they were already doing it at the end of the broadcast with Aikman. They're like, is this the last time we see him in a Vikings uniform? They're going to throw water on, or throw dirt on him. They're going to say he's done. And they're not going to talk about how the Rams had an amazing defensive performance in this game to put a potential MVP candidate on his ass 9 times. Tied the record for most sacks in a playoff game with 9. I just couldn't believe it. Darnold held on to the ball too long, absolutely, but we were tearing up their offensive line, destroying it. And you have to be just so happy with this young defensive core and what's to come.
Yeah, and this young defensive core is going to play together for at least next year and the year after, because then Kobe's and Byron Young's rookie contracts are up at least through 2026. This is stat via the Los Angeles Rams PR. NFL postseason history, the Rams made it. The Rams became the first team ever to have 2 cornerbacks record at least 1 sack in a playoff game since 1982, when sacks became an official stat. The defense was on one. You give the secondary a ton of credit. Kobe Durant had an incredible game, the land shark. Quentin Lake was phenomenal in all phases. Akella Witherspoon had a big game. He had one of the sacks. And the defensive front is absolutely phenomenal. Even the second level, the linebackers. You saw Omar Spates stuffing a hole. You saw Christian Roseboom on the blitz making big plays, open field tackles. But I want to go back to what you said just to start the game, because this was such a struggle from this team throughout the entire season. I think they played 13 or 14 games where they didn't score a first quarter touchdown. They came right out of the gate. They ran a ton of 12 personnel, so you had 2 tight ends on the field for the majority of the time. You saw Colby Parkinson and Tyler Higbee. It was a shame that Tyler Higbee got hurt, but they were firing on all cylinders. Sean McVay was very much in his bag to be able to combat what Brian Flores had thrown at them, which was a legitimate pass rush on early downs to try and get them behind the sticks. And we talked about Brian Flores' potential distractions in the last episode as he was interviewing for head coaching jobs. There was a little bit of distraction on the side of the Vikings, and I think a little bit of demoralization when it came to what happened last week with the Detroit Lions. I don't think they had confidence in themselves, and the Rams took advantage in every single opportunity. When they brought the blitz, they had Matthew Stafford on play action. The pass protection was really solid. Kyron was even really good in pass pro, and Matthew Stafford diced them up. And what I love so much about Stafford is he's not only a gamer. The way that he got up after getting hit and was, given the peace signs and was going nuts, but he's 15 total touchdowns, 5-1 record for the Rams in the NFL playoffs since becoming a Los Angeles Ram. And now, as we mentioned, the Rams are 1 win away from going to the NFC Championship. So nobody thought it was possible this season. And guys like Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, whenever you have them on your team, they make it possible.
It really did feel like that Flores just didn't do his homework. If you're going to look at Matthew Stafford and look at the kind of quarterback that he is, if you're going to bring the blitz, he's going to tear you to pieces for it. And that's exactly what he did. And I texted this to you and our dad as the game was going on. But I was like, it's so nice to be in a situation where you don't have a quarterback that could blow the game for you in the sense where it's like, okay, we're going to take away your run game. We're going to take and we're going to blitz. And you know what? The ex quarterback, Sam Darnold, is going to have to win the game for you. And that's what we did to them. And Sam Darnold could not handle the pressure. And if you say that to Matthew Stafford, like, all right, Stafford's going to have to beat us. He'll beat you 10 times out of 10. And that's exactly what he did tonight. I mean, diced him up at that one crazy, like really gutsy, oh, I actually threw it play. Like, probably not worth it. Maybe next time just take the sack. Because that was a potential game changer moment if they ruled that a fumble and it was close enough to where it could have been ruled a fumble. But yeah, I mean, Stafford is definitely that guy for sure.
It just goes back to why I always like to defend Matthew Stafford, just because the smarts, not only at the line of scrimmage and stuff pre-snap, and what he does post-snap to be able to diagnose defenses. But instead of taking the sack, he gets rid of the ball. They weren't called for intentional grounding. He takes easy completions at times. They utilize the tight ends. I thought he flowed really well with the game plan. And some of the tendencies that I felt like were so obvious with what the Minnesota Vikings like to do on a consistent basis. Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford were all over it. And that's why you're always defending somebody like that, because the level of intelligence and talent, the way it's all married together, you just don't know bad quarterback play until it comes into your building and it affects you week over week over week. Like you said, you have trust in that kind of guy in those kind of situations, and the run game is taken away and the pressure increases. Matthew Stafford's going to be able to dice you up and make plays down the field. And they did it early and often. And then they just hung their hat and said, defense, go get them.
Yeah, defense, go get them. Ronnie and Kyron just run the ball. And that's exactly what the defense did. I mean, look at that. Beautiful. Just 9-27, 9 minutes left. They scored that one touchdown. They couldn't get the 2-point conversion. And that was just all she wrote. That was all she wrote for that Rams team. Shula, probably the last season we are gifted with the Chris Shula defensive coordination, because I guarantee he'll get head coaching at least interviews next year. The Rams have allowed less than 10 points in 5 of their last 6 games. Like, holy cow. It's incredible.
Yeah, and the one was a game against Seattle where none of their starters were playing. So, I mean, it could theoretically have been 6 in a row, which would have been a franchise record. They would have extended a franchise record because they did it 4 weeks in a row to end the season before Seattle. So, yeah, this defense is incredible. I mean, you got to give them a ton of credit. We were talking about this. We showed this stat already. But Jared Verse.
The scoop and score. Yeah.
I mean, unbelievable. He just makes memories against the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm trying to think of the pass rusher that they took over Jared Verse. And this was somebody that actually was in our mentions today. I'm trying to think of the name of the pass rusher who the Minnesota Vikings drafted over Jared Verse. So Verse doesn't forget that kind of stuff. And the name will pop to my head at some point in this episode. But Verse, he reached the top speed of 19.88 miles per hour, the fastest speed reached by a 260-pound ball carrier over the last 7 seasons. So Verse was trucking. He makes memories against the Minnesota Vikings.
My God. And that's what him diving on Darnold is my favorite thing ever. I wish that damn ref was not in the freaking frame of that. But it is crazy. That is the one thing I always wanted Donald to do. I feel like that was the one thing missing, was him to scoop and score, strip sack touchdown, or even just a gadget play where they he just buried it in for a touchdown. Jared Verse got it in his first year. That's remarkable.
I know. You just wanted to see Aaron Donald run with the ball. The player was Dallas Turner, by the way.
Right.
That the Vikings had drafted.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Latu went to the Colts, and then Dallas Turner went to the Vikings, and then Jared Verse went to the Rams at 19. So, I mean, Aaron Donald in the building too. That was one of the things you wanted to see him do, was scoop and score. But I mean, you got to be able to provide that type of energy. You saw Torrey Holt in the building as well. This team, it seems like they have so much good momentum rolling now, coming out of everything that happened in Los Angeles, and now, you go into Philadelphia, and there's some snow in the forecast, and it's a really, really tough team that they did exactly what the Rams like to do, or what they did in this game rather, which was get ahead, be able to control the clock, run the ball, and play really, really good defense. And if you can kind of flip that game plan on their head, you're going to have a chance. And you got to be able to kind of talk yourself into this one, just because the Philadelphia Eagles are such a good football team this year. But the path to the Super Bowl is going to be through 3 potentially 14-win teams: the Minnesota Vikings, the Philadelphia Eagles, and then potentially the Detroit Lions if they beat the Commanders in the divisional round. So if you're going to do it, you got to be able to beat the best. And you've seen them be able to compete with these quality teams. You saw with the Buffalo Bills. You saw with the Vikings now twice. You saw with the Detroit Lions earlier on in the season. The Eagles are that one outlier where you're just like, I don't know if they can bring it. But, it's any given Sunday. And this team is doing what they need to do, and they're getting hot at the right time.
I mean, we'll do an Eagles preview episode later in the week. I'm sure of it. But at the same time, if you have a similar game plan that you have against Sam Darnold, Jalen Hurts has 3 or 4 career playoff wins, and he's thrown for like an average of like 130 on those playoff wins. It's not like you go after him. Absolutely. I think that's the key to victory in that game. And then let Stafford that's also a really fantastic defense, but Stafford's going to have to dice him up. 209 tonight, but he could have easily thrown for 300 if the defense wasn't as good as they were. We absolutely dialed it back on the pass because we didn't have to.
Yeah. And you lost Tyler Higbee. Higbee had 5 receptions for 58 yards, which the tight ends were clearly a massive part of the game plan.
Yeah, we need to figure out what's up with Higbee.
Yeah, some of the matchups interior in terms of like some of their slot corners and some of their linebackers, they loved the matchups that they had with their tight ends in this game. And you saw them take advantage of it. Davis Allen had a touchdown. Hunter Long had a big catch. They targeted Colby Parkinson early and often. Tyler Higbee had 5 for 58. The way that they like to do it is week to week. And I do think that one thing that people criticize Sean McVay on, like especially towards the end of the season, was that the offense was getting a little bit stale. I know they played in some difficult conditions, but you want to be able to save some of your ammo, some of your best, most thoughtful and most complete game plans for teams that are prepared for you in the playoffs and teams that you've already seen before. Now you're getting that potentially 3 times in a row with the Eagles, and if you beat the Eagles, potentially the Lions as well.
Yeah, that's 4D chess that I don't think Ben Johnson is really playing right now. He's just like unloading it like every week. But I do think that's a real part of coaches who are on that next level where it's like, let's get to the playoffs. And it's part of the reason why they rested everybody. They're like, we deserve a rest. It doesn't matter who we're going to play. We respect all, fear none, and we're going to going there with our best, and we're going to play amazing football. And that's exactly what they did, and it was awesome to watch. That was the best game of the season, and it was almost zero stress outside of the refs. If there were no terrible calls, it would have been zero stress.
Yeah, you're right. Even from special teams, you got a couple of great punts from Ethan Evans. Joshua Carty was perfect. He's made 15 straight field goals.
You got really lucky that guy didn't block the punt. I don't know how that. I watched it. I was like, did it go through his arms? It was like a glitch in the Matrix. It was so weird.
It was extremely weird. But you know what? Things have worked out for this team. The punter was a player that people talked about in the offseason. This could be one of the better punters in the league. And now he's starting to pin teams consistently within the 10-yard line. And Joshua Carty's really coming along nicely as a 6th-round pick. He's made these last 15 field goals, and he's been great on extra points. And, you got to be able to have those things. The return game has been solid. You haven't had a lot of turnovers with the return game, which is something that, when you play a wild card round, I remember back to the Falcons game in 2017, the Pharaoh Cooper fumble. Those are always concerns that you have going into these type of games, is that one big glaring mistake. You could talk about Kyron Williams potentially coughing up the rock, especially as we get into Philadelphia next week. But, those – and he had some injuries in this game too, like we mentioned. Higbee. Puka got a little bit banged up. Akello left with a thigh injury. Bobby Brown was questionable to return. I don't think he ever returned in this game. So you're going to be banged up going into Philly, going cross country in the snow potentially. So it's definitely going to be tough. But regardless, this team, you feel like any given Sunday they can really kind of come together and beat some of the better teams in the league.
Yeah, and I really think it's the experience too. And I know that he wasn't a huge part of why we won today, but when we needed him, he stepped up. Cooper Kupp, amazing, huge catch down the sideline. It was just a deep bomb at 9 and dime, finally connected again. And I think one of the reasons why Higbee's been such a big part of the offense coming back is teams know that Puka is that guy. I mean, he's a beast.
Yeah.
He is what everybody wanted Ben Skoranek to be, and so much more is Puka. He fullback, everything gadget, just great hair. He is a legend. He's such a legend. And Cup has taken a back seat, but even just having him there at all has been helpful. And that one huge play, I mean, that was absolutely needed to keep the pressure on their necks as we win.
Yeah, I mean, and you look at some great organizations over the years, and when teams have extended Super Bowl windows, it is sometimes some of the younger kids that step up, and you have to be able to draft really well. You got to find the Jared Verses, you got to find the Byron Youngs and the Kobe Turners. Kobe had a hat trick in this game. You got to be able to find those type of players. I think about like the Patriots 15-year window or whatever it was. You go from Amendola to Edelman, and who was the Wes Welker before them? It's like it's just a transgression of talent, of younger talent, like-minded players that learn off of each other and feed off of one another, where you're able to teach each other stuff, and then eventually you have that guy make the big play in the big situation in the playoffs, and that's the relationship between Puka and Cooper. And that's why you're seeing so many great things with the late round draft pick and Puka Nacua. He's also just so physical and tough. He's impossible not to love.
He's not reading books on the sideline during games. His quarterback's calling him out, saying that I've never seen him read before. It's just like the vibes here, even though the city is literally on fire. It's literally on fire. And the Rams brought all of that emotion and that positive energy to a neutral site and won the game. And then you're going up against the team next week who is fighting with each other in their hometown. Like the Rams are primed to win that game, or to upset and win that game. And so going into this, I was like, I think whatever team wins this game, Rams Vikings, will probably lose to the Eagles. I don't feel that way now at all. Like that was a fantastic display of good football, special teams, defense, offense, coaching, management. It's like seriously management for organizing that. Well done, like 10 out of 10, no notes. Yeah, I mean, also huge shout out to Arizona Cardinals. 2 planes sent from LA, 400 passengers, 6 dogs, 2 cats. They ordered 200 gallons of paint for the field. They got concessions for 60K people, 5,200, or no, sorry, 52,000 tickets sold in the first 2 hours. I was hoping for a little more like 90-10, which is what we were supposed to get here. That's what they were clocking it, 90% Rams fans, 10% Vikings fans. But it was 50-50. We had to burn that one early timeout, but it really didn't matter.
Yeah,
it's going to be 99 to 1% next week in Philadelphia, and Dean will be that 1% in his Aaron Donald jersey.
I have to go, don't I? I have to go.
Yeah, you have to go. I was going to go to this one if it was here.
Yeah, I'm going to wear this jersey. Nobody can give Aaron Donald a hard time. Just kidding.
I don't know.
They will be barking up a storm. What the hell are you doing here? Go back home. It's going to be a long plane ride home. LOL. It's only 30 minute. It's only 30-minute drive. So
they're going to go after everything. They're going to go after this. I mean, they are the scum of the earth. The video was just dropped of them just saying the most diabolical stuff to a Packers fan, just trying to watch the game. They're going to. I mean, they are the worst. This pod is turning into a despisement of Philly fans, but I mean that's just how I feel. Sorry.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Later this week when we talk about them, it's going to be a blast. If you guys are enjoying the content, as always, make sure that you are liking and subscribing. Hell of a win. 27-9. Rams take care of business against the Minnesota Vikings. They move on to the divisional round. All is well in Los Angeles, at least for tonight. And hopefully things get better over the next couple of weeks. But Nick, I appreciate you as always. Always a blast doing this. And looking forward to our next episode.
Appreciate you, brother. One last shout out to all of the workers who are helping with the fires, everybody volunteering their time, their money, their energy, anything that they can. Donations are huge. Just huge shout out to all those people. It's a very difficult time here in Los Angeles. And it's nice to take our mind off of it and just enjoy some football.
Yeah, indeed. We appreciate all of you. Nick, I appreciate you. Rams, I appreciate you. And we'll talk to you soon. Go Rams.